you get a book when we had the work session? It's Dr. Braswell was ordering the ones for, I don't remember who, I think he had 2 copies, I don't remember who got a copy. Okay. Will you-
I might now, because I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah, would you like a copy? Or one that's wrapped, whichever one. Is Pam showing up yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
She said she'd be here.
Let me text her. I haven't heard from her.
She's usually one of the first ones here.
True. Pardon?
Howdy, Pam.
Hello, Pam.
Hey.
Not say anything crazy, you're already being filmed.
Oh, my best side, because I'm not-
How's your back? You seem like you're still moving real slow.
I just let the doctor a while ago. I'm doing MRI because it didn't take. We have to smile with our eyes now. I know. They're smiling. We have
Hello.
Hi, Mark, it's Denise.
Hi.
Hi, we're just getting you on so that we're ready. And then everyone else is here. Tim Cason's here, Pam Long and Dennis Callahan are here in person.
All right.
Our principals are here. And our reporter is here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's affirmative.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just want to make sure I'm not talking to myself.
Do you have the microphone over there? Denise?
What's that?
Do you have the microphone there?
I do.
I don't think it's turned on. Nothing's coming through over here.
It's at the bottom, Denise.
I don't see. What's that? Jesse? What's that?
The power button's at the bottom.
I see.
Sorry.
Okay, Mark, can you say something?
Yeah, so I was just looking at the time, looks like we've got a little bit less than 2 minutes until the beginning of the agenda, meeting.
Okay, much better now that I have the mic turned on. Well, we have that section that Dr. Grass was on. Everyone? Oh, I just saw it. Okay. I know, Anthony said she needed signatures from the three of you. Sorry.
Oh.
I have six, I have 5:59, Mark.
Right, I think go at 5 now, I'm looking at it right now, we're almost there, it should be here momentarily, and I'll be, we'll be opening this up, so. All right, I've got 6 o'clock, so if everybody's ready, 6 o'clock, the governing board meeting starts now, so like school district number 22. And we will now open up with the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could ask Mr. Cason to go ahead and lead us in that.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to
The
the flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, a moment of silence, please. All right, Pam, if you got, could you lead us in the treasure hunter pledge?
As an
adult
and a
and
treasure
a
hunter,
treasure
I
I'm
am
committed to search for all talent, skills, and intelligence that exists in all children. I believe that children are capable of success.
No exception.
All right. Looks like we're leading up to the roll call, so if you could help me out there, ma'am.
Certainly. Mark Lindgren,
Here.
Dennis Callahan,
Here.
Tim Payson,
Here.
Kamala Long. Here.
All right, Michael, I just have one thing that is, when I speak, it seems everybody else cuts out. So hopefully I'm not talking when somebody else is trying to say something, so I'll try and hold off a little bit. Now we move on to the approval of the agenda as presented.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Board Member Callahan and a second by Ms. Long. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against? Motion passes. Thank you. We go into number 2A, current events.
Johnny Flores, which we mentioned last board meeting, resigned on June 25th, and he was appointed by Pinal County Superintendent Jill Sard to serve on the governing board on March 28, 2019. He resigned to move his family to Utah. to be geographically closer to his family. And Superintendent Broussard will not be appointing anyone to fill this vacancy because we're so close to the November election.
All right, and he will be missed greatly by all of us.
Yes.
All right. Now we move into the consent agenda. Approval for, anybody have anything to say?
Make a motion, we approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. Kaysen. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes, and we are on to our next information and discussion items. A, financial reports. I'm sure Tim knows exactly who he is.
All right, so we just met a couple weeks ago, so not a lot has really changed. Starting with the grants report, the only real change that you're going to see on there is that we have started the process to get the hazardous material testing done for the doors project and the building C and D roof. And so they will be, we're waiting on their bid to come in so we can get that started and get moving on that process. As soon as we have the hazardous material testing done, then we can move right along to procuring the contractors to be able to start on those two projects and get moving forward on them. The grants, the government grants have pretty much stayed the same. The one thing that I do want you to know regarding the school safety grant is that SROs have been hired by their respective agencies, the Sheriff's Department and Eloy PD. So we do have people already lined up for those positions for the two schools. That's a big relief, especially for the Sheriff's Department, because we were having, at one point, we were having some issues with that, but they did hire someone for that position, and we will have those filled very soon. Any questions on the grants? No?
Sounds good. Like I'm glad we've come up with somebody to help out with that from the Sheriff's Department. We move on to the fiscal year 2021 budget public hearing.
One more thing, Mark, we got the budget report still.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I missed it.
That's okay. We did the grants
I
report.
looked down, I turned my page, and here they are, budget reports. Sorry about that.
The budget report really didn't change a whole lot from last month. I mean, we've kind of been staying steady right about where we were. The one thing that you may notice is the encumbered amount for both the salaries and the employee benefits is down to zero, meaning we've paid out everything we were expecting to pay out. And so that part is done. We do still have some carryover bills that will be coming paid here before long. But right now we're looking at a budget capacity that end up being the carryover of $291,351.41. Any questions? Okay, Mark, now we can move on.
Now we can move on. Sorry about that. I just tried to jump ahead of myself there. Okay, here we move on to B, fiscal year 2021 budget public hearing. Does anyone have anything to say, comment? I take by the silence that no one has anything to say. If someone will make a motion, we will go ahead and close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for the budget.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Callahan, a second by Member Kaysen. All those for? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes. Now we move on to calls to the public. Do we have any calls to the public, ma'am?
We do not.
Very good. We move into the action items, number 6, fiscal year 2021 annual district budget.
So what is presented to you is the exact same budget that you were presented at the proposed budget last, 2 weeks ago. And nothing has changed. Our primary tax rate at 20992 is where we are budgeting that at. And the Class B bonds at 0.5278, which means our overall maintenance and operation fund budget will be at $6,623,900. and the unrestricted capital at 610,669. And then the federal projects and other items there of 1,048,155 for a total aggregate school district budget of 8,282,724.
Make a motion, we approve the 2021 budget as presented.
Second. All right, we have Mr. Callahan, who made a motion as presented, and Mr. Tim Cason has seconded that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All again? Motion passes. Now we move on to B, the 2020 school district bond.
So we are going for a $8 million bond in the 2020 general election in November. We want to be able to put up general education preschool programs on both of our school sites, and we want to establish and open up an alternative program for our students that would otherwise be long-term suspended. We need to purchase buses for those decrepit buses that keep breaking down. And we need some renovations such as removing carpets, which are icky, that are just a germ trap, and then polish the concrete floors. And the student restrooms, Toltec, are another renovation that has needed to be done for many years now. And so we want to do some renovations to our campuses, much needed renovations. We do have an existing 2012 bond that we have 2 payments remaining, so that would be this year and next year. With the new bond, if passed, we would be able to cover the April 2021 sale and the fiscal 2022 first payment with the bond proceeds instead of the taxes, so no one would have double payments or more of a payment. And the average interest in tax rates per $100,000 assessed home value for a 10-year bond, it's at 4.25%, and that's about $1.10 for if your home is assessed at $100,000. 15-year, it's at 4.5% interest, and that's 82 cents per 100,000 assessed home value. 18-year bond would be at 4.75%, and that would be at 75 cents per $100,000 assessed home value. So if we look at the 10-year, that's about $110 for a $100,000 assessed value home. That would be per year. So you're looking at, you're looking at dividing that up by 12 and see what, $9 is something would be per month for those homeowners that have a home that's assessed at $100,000. The packet where you see it gives the information that I just went over on the first page. And then on the second page, it kind of shows you these payments. It does have the payment for 2020, which has already been made. And they were going to remove that. I'm not sure why they didn't, but it's still there. And then you see 3 boxes in the 2021 bonds in the series 10-year, 15-year, and 18-year. Those are our options. And you see that it's the money that I just went over. And then the third page talks about we have a bond capacity of 12.1 million, and we're asking for 8, so we're asking for under that bond capacity. And so our annual payments right now for our existing bond has been about $451,000, and that goes through fiscal year 22. That bond is at a tax rate of 50 cents, so that one is lower. Then on the last page, you see the unlimited, you see the net assessed value and then the net full cash value. This is for the district. And so you see that it did go down in 2012 to 2015, and now it's climbing again. So the value of our property is increasing. We find ourselves in less than 10 years needing another bond. So personally, I would rather see us go for a 10-year period than a 15 or 18-year period. I know it is a little bit more. For instance, you got $1.10 for the 10-year, 82 cents for the 15-year, and 75 cents for the 18-year. You can pay them off sooner, but in a 10-year span, a lot of changes can come into play. And so I would hate to see our district bound to a 10-year and then, bound to a bond that is 15 or 18 years when there's a need for other needs that arise.
All right, so it looks like what we have to look at here is if we're going to make a ruling on this, that we either say 10, 15, or 18. Does anybody have any other discussion about this?
I make a motion, we approve the bond for a 10-year time frame.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Callahan and second by Mrs. Long for the 10-year bond. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. That brings us up to the face coverings. Steve?
Yes, that in a discussion that I have with Ms. Rogers concerning face masks or face shields, she had expressed that she felt more comfortable with face shields. This is a hard plastic weapon, as I see it will end up being. I can't imagine what these masks are going to look like when children have been talking into them and playing and sweating and spitting and all that they do. The negative impact of that, let alone the spread of whatever that might be. I just can't imagine that would be a good alternative to a face mask. We have no idea what's going to be handed down by our governments over the course of the next week, 2 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever. So I don't know that as board members, we even have the authority to make any kind of decision until the higher ups make a decision.
We're looking at, we get mandates by the state and the county and local mandates, and I hope I'm not cutting anybody off, and you're right, there may be a change by tomorrow, and we do not know. And it will, in the end, it will not be left up to us, I believe, and I don't think at any time in the future we will actually be able to make any decision on that.
I believe the best thing to do for us at this point is just to put the idea of any kind of face covering or protection on the table and have it just tabled at this point until we see what the local governments do. Because we don't really have the authority to make a decision above and beyond what they do.
Yeah, I understand that, and I agree with you on that one. I think tabling this right now would be our best decision.
Then I'll make a motion that we table any discussion about any kind of face coverings or face shields until we get further direction from our government.
I second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Callahan, second by Mr. Kaysen. All in favor of tabling this at this time, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. to the back to school presentation. D.
Our principals have put together a presentation which they are going to get ready at this time. And while they're getting that ready, I'd like to take your attention to the synopsis, which is just a little picture of what our plan will be. So that is your first attachment on this agenda item. So we have phase one would be the initial reopening. We would have rigid health and safety protocols and program recommendations. Phase two, we would have additional instructional considerations and strict health and safety protocols. Phase three would be a higher risk. We would offer remote learning for the higher risk population, and we'd have enhanced health and safety protocols. Beyond phase three, we'll have a new normal for instruction and extracurricular activities as permitted in consultation with health officials and health and safety protocols. So some of our COVID-19 measures are going to be addressed in this presentation, so I'll just let them go instead of me repeating what they're already going to go over. Okay, so Principal Hoffman and Principal Winsberg.
Okay, as should be obvious, as a school, our primary concern is the health and safety of our students and our staff. We started with surveys of our stakeholders, so we asked families and our staff what their feelings were about reopening the school. We focused on transportation, reliable internet service, learning model preference, face mask preference, daily temperature checks, and their attitude towards meals. We sent 2 surveys home to families. The first was concluded on June 15th. And some of the we had 159 responses, and some of the interesting data from that is, does your child have consistent, reliable internet access? 80% do. And at that time, will your child ride the bus? 55% said no. And then on this part of the survey, you can see their attitude towards employees wearing face masks. They preferred it. Students wearing face masks, they were kind of split. Temperature checks taken daily was preferred, both with employees and students. And eating meals in the classroom was more preferred. And then in this survey, the first one, are you planning to have your child attend school? Most were. There were quite a few maybes though, and then 9% no's. And which model will you choose for your child at that time was 45% in person, 33% were interested in the hybrid model, and 22% interested in remote learning. Then we gave another survey 2 weeks later. It concluded on June 30th. It had 319 responses, and at that time, attitudes in the 2 weeks had changed significantly. At that point, only 29% were interested in in-person learning, 21% were interested in the hybrid, and 50% were interested in remote learning. So with the increased interest in online learning and the decreased interest in hybrid learning over the span of those 2 weeks, there was not enough student interest in the hybrid model to be able to offer it. And then we gave a survey to our staff, which concluded on June 21st. We had 88 responses. At that point, their attitude towards returning to school was if protocols were in place and there was safeguard training. The top 2 priorities for their health were hand washing and temperature checks. And then for our staff, the top 3 priorities for cleaning and distancing, safety when schools reopened. The top ones were enhanced cleaning of surfaces, staggering schedules to reduce crowding. And then hand sanitizing and frequent hand washing. And then at that time, full return to regular school day and schedule with safety protocols. There was more support than not. And with a blending learning idea, there's more support than not.
Okay, so this is just basically saying the center for the recommendations from the CDC. So when we were planning, we tried to follow to the best of our ability these recommendations. Okay, so the next couple, on the 10 to 15 slides, basically this is procedures we're going to follow no matter what plan we go with, if they fit as needed. So the first thing we're going to start with is we have difficulty getting the emergency cards back, but this year students won't be admitted without those, only because we need up-to-date phone numbers. We need to be able to contact families. We will not be permitting any backpacks and no homework packets, just to help decrease the chance of the spreading the virus. Next one is temperature checks. So if we do bring students back, is how we will handle that is at our drop-off locations, we will have thermometers as well as on our buses. So at the drop-off locations, the students will stay in their car until the staff member comes up, does their temperature check, and if anybody has a temperature, then they will be asked, the parent will ask the parents to go ahead and take them home. We will also be asking the whole household to go home, just because we know it spreads within households quickly. And then students may not return until they are met the CDC's criteria to discontinue home isolation. And then as far as buses, we started having monitors on our buses last year, so we will continue that this year. And when we go to a stop, the bus monitor will step off the bus to take the temperature. If for some reason one of the students does have a temperature, then is what we're going to do is we're going to clear the first couple rows and place a mask on them, use hand sanitizer, and they will be taken directly to our front offices, and we will contact parents, only because we think we have a difficult time getting a hold of parents right then and there. So we would still have to transport them. And same rules, if they do have a temperature, they may not return until all CDC's criteria to discontinue home isolation is met.
Ms. Huffman, yes, I do want to say that we will be asking our parents to remain at the bus stops, but this is just in case a parent isn't there. We don't want a student to walk from the bus stop home without an adult, so regardless of the age of the student. So this would only be if we would load them onto the bus only if an adult is not right there with that child.
And the kids that walk to school, there'll be someone to take their temperature before.
Yeah, if they're walking to school, whether they get dropped off in the front office or a parent pick up their temperatures will be taken before they enter the campus.
I have a question. If at a bus stop, the bus driver stops, and the person gets off and there's 12 kids at the bus stop, and they take all 12 kids' temperature, and one of them has a high temperature, you're going to separate that kid, put the 11 on the bus with all the other kids. And they've all been standing there together. What's the point? There's really no point. At that time, they've all been standing there at the bus stop together for the last 30 minutes. And you're going to separate the one and turn the other 11 loose. I don't see where it's going to do any benefit.
Well, we'll be teaching our students physical distancing, and hopefully we will be adhering to that. I mean, kids are kids, and so we can only do the best we can, but we'll be, all the safety protocols will be instilled into our staff and students.
Face coverings, as you guys already kind of touched on, face coverings protection will be mandated in accordance with current CDC, federal, state, and local guidelines. Although they are highly recommended, we will follow the guidelines of our higher ups. If we do have face coverings, we will be providing them. If they do not have them, we will order large quantities of the disposable face mask for anybody who forgets theirs or needs one. Transportation, temperatures, as we discussed, we take before the entry. Hand sanitizer will also be used before they enter the bus. Face coverings will only use them if that's what we are told to. Assigned seating for all. We will sit families together, no more than 2 students per seat. We also have a parents bus waiver that all parents will have to understand, that if you put the children on the bus, they're going to understand our process as well. We will be loading back to front and load front to back. And then depending on how many students we have where, we may possibly change the radius for bus pickup. Cafeteria. So for both breakfast and lunch, all meals will be eaten in classrooms. We won't be mixing them at all. So we'll use disposable trays and single serve condiments just to help reduce the spread.
Something, are we going to continue to use styrofoam disposable trays?
That is what we currently use. Yes.
We're going to continue to do that.
I did talk to Tim, and he was gonna have it was due to cost. It was what I understand was the reason. Tim probably hasn't had a chance to do this yet. But of course, paper and recyclable paper is the best. But the styrofoam.
Well, this cost is a cost that the state pays for. Anything that's related to the coronavirus, the cost of the district, we're supposed to get reimbursed for, right?
Yes and no. I mean, we're limited to, we got a grant for $282,000. That money is going to rapidly go away if we're not very careful on how we're utilizing it. Something as simple as staying with the styrofoam plate versus going with the paper plate. If we can save money there, we can use that money to better protect our children and keep things safe. High Day's already approached me and said, hey, I need to-go boxes. Order to-go boxes. We need to-go boxes because they're going to be serving in the classroom. So, we have to be very diligent. $282,000 looks like a lot of money until you start spending it, and then you realize.
Well, we're buying trays anyway. What's the difference between paper and styrofoam?
I just want to say that since it's going to the classrooms, if it's a to-go box, those are paper. They're not styrofoam. And
Yeah,
that's
you
what
get
we're
free,
ordering.
you get the pre-packaged, that's what they do at my facility. They got.
These are styrofoam clamshell. These are styrofoam clamshell.
Can we find out the difference between
Oh, I see.
costs between the styrofoam and the paper?
We can certainly do so.
Restrooms, outside of so both me and as well as Judy have already ordered signs to go around our campus. And some of these signs hopefully will mark spots of where students can wait for the restroom. There's only a certain amount of students that will be allowed to go on time, very limited. We'll have signs for hand washing, keep exterior doors open, limit number of students sent at one time, and we will also be cleaning our restrooms every hour. Classroom layout, reasonable spacing of desks. All desks will be facing the same direction. There will be marks on the floor for distancing. We will have assigned seats in all classrooms, individual storage of materials, just so the materials are not mixing, and use technologies to facilitate partner group work. So for example, if we are running interventions, instead of them leaving classrooms, they may be meeting on a Zoom call or a Skype call. So they'll still all be present, but on their own device, just so we can keep them in the classroom with the same group. Recess. At this time, we will not be using any of our play structures, only because it'd be hard to sanitize in between each group. Physical movement with distancing between students, so we'll show them different games they can do. But basically, if they need to touch anything, we're trying to eliminate that to help stop the spread. We will have staggered release times. So for example, in the past, we've had kindergarten and first grade go together. That will no longer happen. They won't be together. Kinder will be separated from first and so on. And then all students will be washing their hands right after recess as well. They'll also wash their hands. We're trying to make it so they wash their hands every Visitors, so for phase one, which I believe Ms. Rogers has already explained the different phases, parents are not allowed on campus before, during, or after school. No volunteers, no visitors, and outside behavioral health will be limited. We're just trying to limit the amount of people that are on our campuses for phase one. Gatherings, this year we will not have any after-school events. We won't have field trips, tutoring. If we do have assemblies, they will be virtual assemblies. Site council and PTO meetings will be virtual. Kinder roundup, meet the teacher, and as well as IEP and 504 meetings, they will all be virtual meetings. Attendance, as of now, school begins August 17th. The other thing that we are doing away with at the moment is no perfect attendance rewards, as well as encouraging staff or students to stay home when they're sick. Additional signage, so other signs that we have ordered is wash hands, cover up coughs and sneezes, stay home if sick, distance yourself, symptoms to look for, and then markings on the floor. We'll also have just to help support the social distancing, basically say. And I know, and both Judy as well as, it looks different because I'm an outside campus, we will have certain areas to go different directions just so they're not running into each other. And then we will post signs, the temperature checks are required, reminding individuals not to enter and sit, and that's in the front offices. Technology, we're going to be providing a uniform platform via Microsoft Teams. So when we say that, all the teachers will be there. When we do the virtual sessions with the students, all of the students will log on to Teams. It will be face-to-face virtually, of course. So that way, every teacher is using the same teaching platform. We'll allow flexibility for SPED, gifted, PE, fine arts, ELL, and early learners. Devices are not for individual use, and we will, depending on what plan we go for, we will develop a plan to deploy devices to those students who are online. Social and emotional learning. There will be daily student check-ins. Last year we were planning for the Masonic training, which is support social and emotional learning, but for now that has been postponed. Staff professional development and trust-based relationship interventions will be used. We will be training all of our staff on that at the beginning of the year. And once again, it's all tied back to social and emotional learning, and also student needs assessments to see what each individual student is in need of. Cleaning protocols. CDC safety guidelines are utilized in developing district-wide safety procedures. So every plan that we put together, because we both got onto CDC to see what they recommended. Of course, we will be asking for donations, and the more help we can get from our community, the better. Each classroom will be sanitized between each session, scheduled for increased routine cleaning and disinfection. So basically what that means, in our schedule, we want to teach not only our staff, because we only have so many maintenance staff. So we're going to teach not only our staff, but our students what they need to do at the end of the day. So every room is sanitized and ready for the next morning. And that time will actually be built into our schedules.
Are you gonna have, for the junior high kids, are they still going to switch classes, or are they gonna stay in the same class and the teacher go there?
So with pretty much everything we're doing, the kids will stay in the class. So the specialist areas, teachers will go to them. Junior high teachers will rotate. So at no, other than recess, they won't be out of their classroom.
So we're basing this off of the scenarios that were provided by the Arizona Department of Ed. And they said with scenario one, you shouldn't consider a full reopening until there's a minimum number of local cases. Scenario two, if you could open your physical buildings and do some distance learning, so a bit of each when there are minimal to moderate cases. And then scenario three would be considered if there are doing distance learning from the start of the school year if there are a significant number of cases in the area. And then scenario four would be intermittent, like if you need to close, then you close. Otherwise, you have school open. So first of all, we'll talk about remote learning. This is of course the lowest risk of spreading COVID, but possible issues include accessibility of our students to online learning, and being able to guarantee student services, student and staff training. We have an extensive plan for our student and staff training so that all are prepared to teach online. Social emotional well-being of both students and staff, and of course large class sizes when you have that many that require online and you're trying to reduce the size of the in-person classes, then it might be disproportionate. So you might have a small class with like 15 in person, but you might have a large class of like 40 if you're an online teacher. And so students will be distributed based on their home school, so they'll still be part of our school. And then once we can bring them back into the regular classroom, then they'll be reassigned to a regular in-class classroom. But for the first quarter, there would be, once they chose a model, then there would be no changes. And then they would attend Monday through Thursday. We have a modeled out a plan for K through 6th graders to have 60 minutes of virtual one-on-one face-to-face instruction with their teacher, and then plan for them to do assignments throughout the day. And then for middle school, it would bump up to 120 minutes of face-to-face time with their teacher. And again, they have assignments to complete throughout the day.
I want to say that the plan is inclusive of the school day. So it kind of goes down through the school day with our students, and as principals have planned. So the student would start, at the beginning of the day, and then there'd be breaks for a snack or recess or lunch, and so it would mimic the school day, but be at home on their computer. So it is much more extensive than what we were able to do in the spring.
What we did in the spring was crisis learning, and that's not what this is going to be. This is going to be online learning with a school model.
So, well, the kids that do the remote learning, are the teachers going to take attendance in the mornings?
Yes, they'll have attendance based on their number of minutes.
So if the student doesn't get up and log on, they're going to be counted absent, and then maybe they log on a couple hours later because they got up. So they're going to take attendance for each subject? How will they do that?
Well, it'll be dependent on hours spent on their assignments and in-person class.
We can also log how long they spend on each assignment, so we can look at that as well and not just the other piece.
Okay.
So for junior high, attendance is taken per subject, because there's so many instructional minutes that are required, and for younger grades, taken in the morning and the PM. So because there's less instructional minutes that are required traditionally in the classroom, so attendance will look a little different depending on the grade level.
Now, I think one of the biggest challenges might be kindergarten and first grade.
Yes.
That's going to be interesting.
Yes.
They'll probably learn faster than their teachers.
Yeah.
Okay, and so in order to, so on this, we kind of hit the key points, but the two options we have, and it will be parent choices if they want to return full-time or do online. And at this time, if they do have the two options, it will be a requirement that if they choose online, that they have reliable internet service. That will be different if we all have to go to online, but with this option. In order to, and so so the instructional time that will happen, we talked about the 60 and 120 minutes, they're going to be staggered. And that's why we did this, is to minimize the bandwidth used in homes, because that is some of the concerns that were brought to us by parents at the end of last school year. So it will help a little bit with that. Teaching sessions can be pre-recorded and stored in Microsoft Stream, so students can watch the video stream over the internet rather than have to download the videos. Students can work offline in the class notebook. Students can sync video files to devices so they can watch them offline as well. Once families sign a technology use agreement, each student will receive a school device for online learning.
So that can be a benefit for the being able to work offline, is that if we end up having to be 100% online and we have hotspots, then students will be able to go to the hotspot, collect their work, and then be able to go home and work offline.
That's awesome. Okay, and then we just want to talk a little bit if we do go with the option of full return to school. It is a higher risk because of transportation, compliance with safety protocols, for example, social distancing in the classroom when you have 30 kids can be difficult, and school closure if needed. So students will be distributed between both schools. One thing that we looked at, depending on how programs fill up or how that bus lines, how many students are each bus stop, school boundary lines may require revisions, but we do not know at this time. And then also, Judy mentioned earlier, there will be no assignment changes. So one thing we were worried about is if parents didn't like the online, they wanted to switch to in-person, that would be very hard for administrators to handle. So we'll let them know that once they make the decision, we won't even consider changing them until at least the end of the quarter, and then we'll revisit. And then the school hours will stay the same. Students will attend Monday through Thursday at TES at 7:30 to 3. At ACES is 8:15 to 3:45. So stagger arrive times for parent and drop off, just so we don't have so many students arriving all at once. Cohort teaching will require teachers to move instead of students. So that's what you had asked earlier. The teachers will move. And then both at ACES and Toltec, we will have one-way hallways. Breakfast and lunches are in classrooms, and special schedule modified and may include teacher movement, and it will not make. So just like I said, the special teachers will also come to the classroom. Procedures that we are currently working on. So we're working on communications process to be followed if a staff or a student were to get COVID-19. One of the plans include that if one child in the household gets sick, that we will send the whole family home instead of the one child. Designated COVID-19, we will have to find a point of contact for designated COVID-19. A system for reporting or communicating to stakeholders if a student does contract COVID-19 or a staff member. We have to design a contact of tracing at each school site, which should be relatively okay, only because our students won't be moving. They'll be with the same group of kids. And decide on a number of ill that will trigger closure and notify health officials. Training of
Just want to say right here that number or percentage of those that become ill to close the school, that will probably be determined by health officials, and that information will be provided for us, so we wouldn't just be making something up.
Training of stakeholders, will be training all staff, students, as well as parents and community on all health and safety protocols. We will implement flexible sick leave policies in practice for our staff, as we may possibly have staff out. In our some key areas, we're going to have to cross-train staff members. For example, if our main secretary goes out, then we're going to have somebody else ready to be in her place. So we will be cross-training. If in-person school is delayed past August 17th, we will begin 100% remote learning. So that's kind of the plan, is if the dates push back any farther, then we will just pick all online learning.
What about breakfast and lunch for the online kids that won't be provided then? It would be impossible to, wouldn't it?
No, we could work something out, because I think I would want to be providing that, so we probably have less pickup spots if we're in person and remote, but we would have some pickup for, we would have breakfast and lunch together like we did when school was closed for pickup.
Suggested models for school closure. If one person or family tests positive for COVID-19, we will self-quarantine for 14 days, and 8 of those days must be symptom-free. This one is 0.5 people or family test positive for COVID, school closure for 14 days. In the event school closure devices will be deployed. So if for some reason we do have to shut down because we have whatever number that the state decides on, then we'll go ahead and continue online. And then just to talk about, we talked about the different phases. So phase 1 is initial reopening, rigid health and safety protocols, and program recommendations. If we're able to get out of phase 1, we'll go into phase 2, which is additional instructional considerations, strict health and safety protocols. Phase 3 is remote learning, still an option for those at higher risk. So in phase 3, most of the kids would probably return to school unless they're at high risk. And we would have enhanced health and safety protocols. Beyond phase 3, school will return to a new normal for instruction and extracurricular options in consultation with health officials. So we'll go back to our new normal. I think that's.
Thank you guys very much. You've put a lot of time, a lot of hours into that.
About all I can think of.
And, you know, I know you've done a lot, and if you haven't, I'm gonna make a motion, we approve your plan, but I know that you're gonna make a lot of changes between now and the time the school actually starts, so. I appreciate all your time and your effort and your diligence to try to find the best way possible to do everything you needed to do. So I make a motion, we approve the plan.
Is that the plan for full opening?
So this is the plan that they presented, everything that they just showed us, they're gonna start with whatever the state allows them to do and work their way through it. And
Also have a choice between
Is that,
online and face-to-face.
So within the synopsis, you can see on the bottom, so the reopening of in-person instruction and learning remains dependent on state mandates.
right,
And then August 17th is the student's first day, but if closure is warranted, then devices are going to be provided for every student, and then distant learning will convene, and we'll have hotspots. We'll figure out a way for the families to be able to go and download if they don't have internet at home. And so we're subject to the state. So if the state stays with August 17th as an opening day, we'll have 2 options, either in person with all these protocols or distance learning. If the state pushes that start date forward, then all will start on August 17th with the distance learning.
so I apologize. I'm trying to understand. We're approving what their plan is. So we're not approving whether to open.
no, we're just approving that they have presented a plan, if the state allows us to open, to
Okay,
proceed forward with this plan, and it's gonna change.
yeah.
With the knowledge that it's gonna
Well,
change.
yeah.
These 2 girls will take care of it. Basically what I'm saying, y'all did a good job, just keep doing what you do, and I'll just keep doing what I do.
I will say that you're right, Dennis. They did spend days and hours, and they were together working in Skype or Microsoft, whatever it's called, meeting. So I joined in like once a week, and they would update me, and I put my little 2 cents in, and then they go back to doing whatever, so many hours, and then as we move along, more will be involved.
Yeah, it was a good presentation, I think. I'll second that.
Okay,
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. Case. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to get on the conversation because when I start talking, I can't hear anybody else. But thank you, ladies, for everything that you did. So anybody, so we have the presentation, and we are asking that we accept the presentation as presented. I'll say aye.
all right,
Any of those against? The motion passes. Thank you again for what you've done there and everything that you did. We now move on to E, the classified hourly pay schedule, 10-month calendar review.
Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, so in the classified pay hourly pay schedule. The only thing that you're really seeing there is the adding the executive assistant to the superintendent, and then also adjusting the district office receptionist pay, which you guys approved last week, or it seemed like last week, 2 weeks ago. And then the second part of that is the 10-month work calendar, which is actually most of the classifieds are on the 10-month calendar. What happened here was a miscalculation in Excel. We didn't, in the years past, we have not had 10-month workers working into June. And so when we were doing all the calculations, the number of days in June didn't put into the calendar. So we had to make the revision to move their start date from August 6th to August 13th to correct that. So those are the only two changes that you'll see.
I just want to clarify that the position addition of the executive assistant to myself is a part-time position, and it's not an assistant superintendent, it's like a secretary. So we've already been started on that, and it's already been a significant assistance, so thank you for that.
I make a motion, we approve the changes.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Mr. Kaysen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. And we run into the performance, number F, performance evaluation system.
We've used strong evaluation system for our certified employees for a few years, and the cost is $15 per evaluator and evaluee. You don't double it. And so our numbers were actually higher than they should have been. When I gave Tim the invoice that had been used last year, he corrected it. So we're actually saving about $900 on this. So thank you, Tim. And this is just to continue using the strong evaluation system.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the strong evaluation system as a continued tool used for the to evaluate the certified employees.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Long to approve and a second by Mr. Callahan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against? The motion has been approved. We go to the qualified teacher evaluator resolution.
This is an annual requirement, and this is resolving who will be our qualified evaluators for our teachers. And we always have our evaluators as having administrative certificates plus training and evaluation. And so our vice principals and principals and our special education director are on the list here to evaluate our teachers.
I make a motion, we approve the evaluators as presented.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. Kaysen. All those in favor, say by saying aye.
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 All against? Motion passes. We now move on to the authorized signer for Apple.
Yeah.
Sure. So our district website package provides us the ability to have a mobile application, and we've had this ability now for a while. We've been trying to work with Apple to get things taken care of. Unfortunately, they're not always the easiest ones to work with. And Dave Griffiths, who is our contracted IT director, has guaranteed me that he can make it get done. And he said, but he needs the ability to be a signer on behalf of the district only for Apple, only for the purposes of Apple. So this won't give him any authority other than signing for Apple. So we can get this taken care of. We've tried over the course of the last almost year to get this taken care of, and it's been a struggle because Dave is not a signer. And so, so he has to kind of turn it to us, and as we've gotten the time to do it, we try. But he said that if he is a signer for the purposes of Apple, then he can get it done. So that's what this is for.
Okay, I make a motion to approve David Griffiths as the authorized signer for Apple.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Member Long, and seconded by Board Member Cason. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes. We now move on to HI.
So this again is, we discussed it last meeting and you had asked for some more information. So Mr. McCain gathered some more information. So you want to take it from here, Mr. McCain?
Sure. You guys asked me to put together how much it would cost for each $5 increase to the substitutes per day. So I looked through all the information and we actually only, when it came to the emergency certified substitutes, we only used 3 days worth of emergency certified substitutes last year. So everyone else had what is considered a certified substitute or a substitute certificate. So that really didn't play a factor in getting subs. But so what we gave you was the overall days of substitutes used last year. We did not meet for the fourth quarter, so we did an estimate for the fourth quarter by dividing the 326 by 3 and giving you the amount that we used roughly each quarter. So last year we would have estimated 435 days worth of substitute usage. You can look down at the bottom as to what our substitute costs were for 2018-2019, which was $67,639. We were actually would have been considerably down. We were way down from that because we didn't have fourth quarter. But even without fourth quarter, we would have seen a drop off down to about $55,099.01. So for every $5 we increase subs, we would approximately spend $2,175 more per year.
Per $5
Per
increase.
$5 increment, yes.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion that we increase our substitute teacher pay by $10.
I'll second that.
Before you make that motion, are you saying across the board, both emergency and
Yeah.
appropriately certified?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So both of them would go on 10
Yeah.
Okay,
So that would make the 2175 double?
Yeah,
yes.
so it costs the district $4,350 for the year. Maybe, could be more, could be less. But that puts us in very good competition with the other districts
Yeah,
to be able to get teachers.
All right, did I have a second?
I second that.
All right, I have a motion by Dennis Callahan to increase the substitute pay by $10. And let's find out how this will work out in the end. All those in agreement? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes. We now move on. Retirement of teacher.
We have Mrs. Kilmer, who has worked with us for 16 years, and she was very emotional over this decision. She has come to you requesting retirement and a release from having to pay the $2,000 penalty, which is a clause in our certified contracts. Because of her physical hardship, she thought when she signed her contract that things would be going back to normal by the time August rolled around, and obviously they're not. And she really suffered last year with her bronchial issues, and she said that she would not be very good at being an online teacher. She said their technology skills are lacking there. She is much better face-to-face. So she's requesting that you approve her retirement as of August 1st and you waive the contract penalty due to the COVID-19 circumstances.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the retirement of Mrs. Kilmer. And due to the pandemic, that we do not put the $2,000 fee on there.
I second.
All right, we have a motion by Pam Long and a second by Mr. Cason about approval of her release and waiver of the
great teacher.
She was very upset
Big
about
loss.
not being able to come back.
Big
Very
loss to our district.
And I'm very sorry that she had to make that decision because it must have been very difficult. I can't fathom how hard it must have been for her to do that because I know she loved school and she loved teaching the kids.
It was very, very difficult, and since this pandemic has began, she has been at home, so, it's been very difficult.
All right. Now we move on to K, employee code of conduct.
Okay, so this was brought to you last meeting, and I did consult with Dr. Braswell, and I believe we kind of focused on number 11, and so you will notice that there's a difference there in the wording, and it says that refrain from activities outside of the contract day that are determined to interfere with his or her ability to effectively perform duties as assigned or the legitimate operational interests of Toltec School District Governing Board.
And he felt confident that would pretty much cover everything we need to cover.
He recommended no change, but when I went over what I thought would be a good change to fit, he said that that would be okay.
Okay, then I'll make a motion, we approve the employee code of conduct as presented.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Tim Case, and all those in favor of the employee conduct, say aye.
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 Aye. We now move on to the BDB policy revision.
I bring you this policy for some revision because it just is not applicable to what we're doing right now. So if you pull that up, the policy BDB is titled Board Officers. So in the first group, which is president, the only thing that I'm suggesting that we remove is the last sentence that says, in the absence of the president of the board members shall select a temporary president, which selection shall be recorded in the minutes. And more on that in a second. And then you go to the second part, which is board clerk. And the duties for the board clerk, it had filing the regular minutes. They do not, the board clerk has never had that responsibility since I've been in the district office, and I don't know before that, but I don't think so. And then the third one, filing executive session minutes. They don't come into a meeting for approval because it's highly confidential, but they are available as per policy for the board to come in and view them. So what I did was struck out following approval and then added following a 2-week period of availability for the discretionary viewing and input of the other board members. And then I added what we already do. In the absence of the president of the board clerk shall temporarily assume the board president's role and perform the functions thereof. And these are the changes I'm recommending, but you can also do a possible addition after what I just read at the bottom of this policy, and we can go back to what I struck out in the president's section, and we could put in the absence of both the president of the board and the board clerk at a scheduled meeting represented by a quorum of the board, a temporary president shall be selected, of which such selection shall be recorded in the minutes. We could add that, and I think it will cover.
Yeah, that might be a good idea to put that. That way it's all covered.
It's all covered, and so there would be a 5-member board, and there's 3 here that'd be a quorum. If the 2 that are absent happen to be the president and the board clerk, the meeting can still convene.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, you represent this next board meeting with the changes that you just told us, the way you just presented it to us. But put it together where it's in writing and it's done the way that you just presented with the forum so that we can approve it that way. Just, go ahead and put it together the way you said. I make a motion, we table this for this meeting and let it get corrected and we'll vote on it next.
I second.
All right, we have a motion that is to be carried on to the next board meeting when everything is changed, completed. And we have a second by Mr. Kaysen. All those in favor? Aye. All those against? Motion just passed. We now move on to the board clerk election. And I would be very happy if Ms. Long would be the board clerk, although I'm sure other people would have things to say.
Are you nominating
Agree
her?
with that.
I am nominating Ms. Yes, I hope I said correctly. I can't hear anybody else in the background. So, yes, I'm nominating Ms. Long for board clerk.
Ms. Long, do you accept that nomination?
Sure.
Is there any other nominations on the board? Anyone else wish to discuss this?
I think Pam's a good nominee.
All right, then, do we have a motion to,
Make a motion, we vote for Pam Long as board secretary.
Second that.
all right, we have a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Mr. Case, and that Pam Long be the next board clerk. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion passes.
Congratulations. Ms. Long.
Congratulations, Pam.
Don't ever be absent, Mark, okay?
From here on, I'm thinking I'll be there, okay? So, doesn't matter, I'm on the phone, we'll just keep going this way if I have to do it that way. And I just want to say one thing before we do anything else, Pam. It's been a while. I mean, you've been on for almost 4 years and you've never had a position. And I'm glad you accepted this time because it makes me very happy that everybody up to this point, you know, that has been here for that long has got a position. And I'm happy. I'm glad that you did accept it. I appreciate you being here.
You're more than welcome.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Now, what's the next meeting date? Do we know?
We're going for the second Wednesday?
The second Wednesday is August 12th.
Well, by then we should know if the 17th is still gonna work, so that might be a good date.
Yeah.
You know, and then if we have to make any changes, we would have that meeting. If we needed to push back anything at all, we'd be able to do it.
Now, the student's first day is projected to be the 17th, and so that's the Wednesday before that Monday. So if you want to move the board meeting up, but you also, thank you, Mr. Conlon, you also, you know, accepted a plan to proceed with distance learning if the need should arise, so.
Yeah. August 12th, good with me.
Good for me.
August 12th it is then.
Okay, I make a motion, we adjourn.
All right, I got a second.
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 Second, okay, motion by Tim Callahan, Dennis Callahan, second by Tim Cason. Can we adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against? Motion passes.
Dennis, don't run yet.
Thank you, Mark.
Take care, guys. Enjoy.